Next, we'll add an attack system for the player. So if you press play right now, and you try to press anything and try to touch the enemy, nothing happens, and it's not doing any damage or attacking the enemy. So that's what we'll do next. First, we'll need to add an input for the attack. We go to the content folder, and over here, there's a folder, if you can see, that already comes with the third-person template called input. Open that up, and there's a bunch of things here. First, we want to go to the actions folder, and as you can see, every single action has a different asset. So jump has an input, looking around, the mouse look, and then the movement for the player. So we want to create a new one for the attack action. So we'll right click and we'll go to the input and select input action. We'll call this IA for input action underscore, and then we write attack. And then if we open that up, there's a bunch of different settings here, but the default one are good for what we want to have. So we can just click save and then close this. And then next we'll go back to the inputs folder. And over here we have these input mapping contexts. And these are basically lists of all the inputs and where we can set each input and how they are executed with the keyboard or game controller. So we'll select the default one and we'll dock this here. And in the mappings, we'll open this. And here you can already see the jump, move, and look. If we open up, for example, the jump one, we can see that spacebar is already set for jumping. And for the gamepad, it's the face button that's in the bottom, which for a PlayStation controller is the X button. And for an Xbox button, that's an A button. In our case, we want to add a new one. So we'll click on the plus button. And over here, we'll click and select the attack one. For now, nothing will happen because nothing is set yet over here. So we can set this in two ways. If you click on this button and then you just click on any of the mouse or keyboard button, it will select it. So if we click again and I press the space bar, it will select this. In our case, we want the left mouse button for attacking. And we can add another one actually. And we can close these drop downs. And we wanted to have it for the gamepad. Now you can do also the same thing by pressing this, and then on the gamepad, if it's connected to your PC, you can select the button. And as you can see, gamepad, the face button has been added. But you may not always have it connected, so you can also select it from a drop down menu over here. There's a lot of different controllers here, and we don't need to worry about all of them. So you can just go to the gamepad or just search gamepad. And we want to select the face button, left button for attacking. And then we can just save and then close this as well. And we go back to the blueprints and open the player blueprint. And in here, in the event graph, we'll create a new function. Because we added a new input button, now when we right click and type in IA underscore attack, we get these new options. We want to select this one. This icon usually means an event, and now we have a new event that gets triggered when we click the attack button. And just for testing, let's get from the triggered a string print. And let's save, compile, and play. And now when I click the left mouse button, we get all of these printed hellos. But as you can see, if I just hold and click, it keeps printing it, and we don't want that. We actually want it to happen only once when we click. So if you press on the drop down button here, you can see all the other options we have. And in our case, we just want the started one, which only will be executed only when you press the button. Even if you hold it, it won't keep going. So we'll put it in here. And here I'll teach you now how to actually remove an old one. We can either double click on it and then just pressing delete, or you can actually hold control and then just pulling it out of it and then just letting go. And then that way it's just connected to the started one. If we press play now and we click the left mouse button, it only happens once. The other ones are actually pretty useful too. For example, completed is when you let go of the button. So that can also be useful for certain actions if you want to have something only happen while you're holding it, and then when you let go, it stops. This is actually used over here on the if we go up for the jump system. So it actually stops the jumping if you let go. So that's where the completed one is set. In our case, we don't need that. We just need the complete one. So we can also close this drop down. And over here, we want to execute a play montage. And we can remove the print string. And for skeletal mesh, we'll just get the character mesh over here. We'll drag and drop that into here. And then put it into here. And for now, we don't have a montage for attacking. So let's save and compile. And let's prepare a montage for this. Let's go back to the character folder. And let's enter the animations folder. Just like we previously created a montage for the jump, we'll now create one for the attack. So we'll right click on it, go to create, and select create anim montage. And then just enter. And then make sure to press save all. And then go back to the player blueprint. And then here we'll select the attack animation montage. And then press save, compile, and then press play. And now when you click, you'll see him attacking. So that's pretty cool. But now we have a new issue. If you keep tapping, it will keep trying to do the animation. So there's no limit to how much you can click on it and do it. And basically, what we want to do is stop him from being able to attack when he's attacking. And we'll do that by creating a new variable. So down here in the variable section, you can press the plus button and create a new variable. By default, always you'll get a Boolean. So in our case, that's perfect because that's what we want. Let's call it is attacking, question mark. And then press save and compile. And now we'll drag this and then set it. And I previously explained this whole timer system where because there's a timer, there's all these different outputs that happen at a certain time, not immediately as you execute this function. But this one here on the top does happen immediately after this gets executed, and there's no timer. So what we want to use that. And so immediately after the player attacks, it's enabled to being is attacking. And what we want to do is also get is attacking again and set it to not attacking anymore when it gets completed. And we want to also put that when it gets interrupted, in case the player gets hit mid-attack. But for now, if you just save, compile, and play, nothing has happened yet. And that's because before the montage executes, we need to check if it's attacking. And if it is attacking, we won't execute the montage. So we'll put this a bit back. And here, we'll get the is attacking. And over here, we'll first get a not Boolean. And then we move this a bit again. And then we'll get a branch. And this is basically checking if it's true or not. Here, we want to make sure if it's not attacking, it will be true. So that's what we're doing here. So we'll connect that to start it. And then we'll connect that to the montage. Now it will only play the montage when it's not attacking. So we save and compile and press play. And now when I try to tap the mouse button as much as I can, it will only do the attack when there's no attack being done. So that's much more balanced and looks more correct. But now we have an issue where if you try to go and hit the enemy, nothing happens. And so that's what we'll do next. First, let's go back here to the viewport and go to the weapon mesh. What we need to do is add a collision for the sword mesh. So we go to the add component and we'll write in collision. And we'll select a box collision. And we'll call it sword collision. And for now, you see it's not properly covering the whole sword. So we'll be adjusting the location and scale of the collision. So for the location, we'll set it to 90. And then we'll set the scale to 2. And as you can see, it's extending a little bit beyond the sword. And this is very typical for many games where the collision is actually bigger than the actual sword or weapon. And this is to make the game a little bit easier, because if it's only covering the sword area, it's a little bit too realistic and it gets very hard for the player to play the game. Next, we'll scroll down to the collision settings. And this time, we actually open up the collision presets. And in here, there's all these preset settings. And we can't edit them because it's all a already preset collision. But we can actually change these by going to custom. And now we can edit all of these. And basically what we want to do is have them all ignore, so it doesn't affect anything in the game. Because I'll show you, for example, if it's all blocked, as an example, and we press play, now we have this issue as before, where it can push the enemy around, and that's not good. And basically we wanted to have it all ignore. But, except for pawn, which the other enemy is a pawn, so we wanted to overlap with that, not block, because that will again do the same issue where it will push it away. With overlap, it will create an overlap event. And so that's what we're going to use to detect if the enemy is getting hit. So we'll continue scrolling down, and over here there's all these events, as I was talking about, and we want to do the begin overlap event. And in this one, basically, we want to detect if it's an enemy. So we'll cast to enemy blueprint. And if it is, we do the defeated function, as we did before in the stomp attack for the character. So we save, compile, and we press play. And now, when the sword touches enemies, it kills them. But this is not good, because even if I'm not attacking and I'm just touching them, it's killing them. And we don't want it to be that way. So what we want to do now is, before calling the defeated function, we will check if it's attacking. So here, we'll get the is attacking boolean, and then we get the branch again. Connect that to true. And so only when it's true, and if it is attacking, it will kill the enemy. So we save, compile, go back. And now, when I swing the sword, that's the only time to actually defeat the enemy. Yeah, that is much better. And yeah, that's it for this lesson.